In my world prepared by God, we must endure another 20 years. That's where the prophecies first were leading when this very started, when this started. It was 9/11. It was using the scripture and the exact 1,000 years. Now, we should all understand that in the Old Testament and the New Testament, there are words that mean myriad, multiples, an abundance of, and there's also words in the Greek and the Hebrew that mean 1,000. You can't do carpentry without numbers that mean exactly what they say they mean. And that's what they used in the prison sentence when Satan was bound for 1,000 years. They use a word that can only mean 1,000, unless 1,000 years is not like a day to the Lord, and that when you build an exact temple, you don't use that same word and you make it 1,300 cubits because it has to match the other wall. It's ridiculous, but that's the way it goes. Welcome, everybody, to Mud Flood Was Armageddon. The mud flood was the Armageddon. Don't let them tell you anything else unless they're willing to debate you or me in a fair and honest, nonviolent way, because you don't want to go down that road. Check it out. I'm going to show, I've got the thing going here. Share the screen. Show the thing. Get on with, hey, one other picture here. Look at that. Isn't she happy? You know, Indianapolis Metro Police Sergeant. She's promoted. She's way up there. See this man with her hands up? She lied and said he pointed a gun at her and tried to kill her and made a shocked face when it was a misfire and was ready to put him in jail for the rest of his life. You know what? I've met a lot of women like her. I was married to a woman who helped me, I thought, make it. And then she tried to use her sister lawyer to deny me of 3 pensions and a divorce thing that she was going on about because she was into the 50 Shades of Grey thing. No, I had enough of women get the benefit of the doubt. Wait, I got another idea. Earn it. We'll get to that. Hey, did you know the type of people that God took as his team? The Lord Jesus Christ said, I'll take the Hebrews. And they were like, you know, because they're so proud and whatever. Uh, hey, let me make a request to you. Can you give me some earrings? If I'm going to be a judge over you, that's going to be a big job, and I'm going to have to, you know, be prepared. And we just crushed the Ishmaelites, and because they're Ishmaelites, they have gold earrings. You give those to me, and I'll be your judge. He didn't want to do it. We will willingly give them, and they spread a cloak, and every man threw in the earrings of his spoil, and the weight was 1,700 shekels of gold, beside crescent ornaments and the pendants. And besides that, there were collars around the necks of their camels. So Gideon made an ephod. Oh no. And it became a snare to the people. That ephod became a snare to the people. Gideon made an ephod and put it in his city at Ophrah, and all Israel did what they do best. All Israel whored after the ephod. And it became a snare to the Gideon's family when people would, what were you thinking, Mr. Superstar Gideon? So Midian was subdued. Israel, Gideon, it lasted 40 years. But then Gideon died. He had 70 sons, many wives, lived a good age. He died. And Israel turned again and whored after the Baals because that's their default position. Hey, let's don't get a big head. Remember, there has to have been a great falling away. And who would have done that? Gentiles. Hola, Marcus, ¿qué pasó? Who would have been a part of the great falling away? The Gentiles did the same thing. They might as well said, give me Barabbas. It's not like there's no good people like, oh, I'm so glad I'm a Gentile. We all have the death penalty. We deserve the death penalty. We are dead in our trespasses and sins. And unless we've been changed and our Redeemer redeemed us, we'd be like these people. All the province of Asia has deserted me. Everyone? Everyone. Uh, all of those in Asia? Yes, all. All they which are in Asia turned away from me, including these two guys who pretended to be heroes. Ah, you guys already know this one, but I'm leading up to the other Bible study thing.
Do you guys remember the applesauce pouches? Now, this was a big thing a couple years ago because children's blood levels were testing for elevated lead. They traced it back to applesauce pouches, but it wasn't the applesauce. The apples just contained arsenic, right? What they found was that there were elevated lead levels in the cinnamon, convenient, healthy snacks for children, for toddlers became the ultimate delivery system for a neurotoxin. Pause for a second right there and just think about that. The food that's meant for the most vulnerable amongst us is carrying the heaviest industrial load. Now, congressional reports and independent testing found arsenic, lead, cadmium across a wide variety of baby and toddler foods, many testing at levels that raise real concerns, especially when you consider regular feeding. Under RFK Jr., the FDA actually even has a program called Closer to Zero. And this is because everybody's at this point in time very aware that the problem exists. Ironic.
Yeah, there's that. And say this guy. Are we sharing the screen? We are sharing the screen. So here's this guy. I've shown him before. He claims to have written a Bible, the keys to the kingdom, Holy Bible, and it's all about the the miraculous new discovery of how to read the book of Revelations, Revelation 20. The millennium is over. But unfortunately, he's going down the Rosicrucian Jesuit John Birch financed preterist thing of, oh, there could be the cattle on 1,000 hills. Nobody really knows. And you know why he's doing it? Because that's all he's ever heard. He doesn't hear me, and everybody just tries to explain it away when they shouldn't. They should embrace the fact that there are words that mean 1,000.
The 1,000 years signifies Jesus' promise of Aeonian life, the long-term safety of the evacuees into heaven. There are enough passages to show the figure of 1,000 is used in the Bible as a rounding up or a rounding down number. For example, the cattle on 1,000 hills are mine.
Gary DeMar used to use that all the time, and I heard him say it in the 1980s, Gary DeMar. I repeated it for 40 years until, if you don't want to believe in dreams and visions for a guy that calls himself Paco, then you shouldn't believe in the millennial reign of Christ is over. And we've been reading Revelation 20 the wrong way, because that's all due to two peyote vision quests. And I'm smoking a organic tobacco cigarette right now because organic tobacco doesn't cause cancer. It's the ingredients they put into it. That's my opinion as a ordained minister in the Oklahoma Native American Church and someone called by God to try to find a place for people to run to when your cities are burning up, and that the end is 2046. It's all based on we were wrong for those 45 years when we were starting the Reconstruction Dominion movement with Ruchus Rushdoony, who I ate lunch with, Gary DeMar, and all those guys from Tyler, Texas, where the Jesuits and the John Birchers hang out, and we used to send our high school girls to so they could go to camps and learn how to be real women. They all, well, at least some of them ended up in that 50 Shades of Gray pretty darn quick. Hey, it's a sad story, but it's the truth, and people say they want it. Go with your nonsense. We're going to expose it. Go, nonsense boy.
Psalm 50, verse 10. What then after 1,000? The number 1,000 carries emotional appeal in Greek and Hebrew, just as it does in English. There are many passages to draw on, in fact, possibly every passage in the Bible with a number 1,000 in it, except the military figures in the book of Numbers, although even those seem mostly rounded down or up to the tens column. One exception is Numbers 348, giving the figure of 22,273 of the sons of Israel for all the firstborn males by the number of names from a month old and upward. Precise, down to the tens column.
In the meantime, there's a word in the New Testament that means exactly 1,000. And it's how long Satan was sentenced to 1,000 years in the pit. It's a day is 1,000 years for humans, but it's a day is just a day to God. 1,000 years in Revelation. The other times it's the space of 1,000 years. Or is the temple not exactly 1,600? Was God shut out of the sacred geometry where he invented the golden mean and the ratios and all of that? That's in the pineapples. That's God. That's Jesus. That's Christ. There's a word for 1,000 years. And a matter of fact, there's myriads and myriads of people, and myriads of people just means a large number like the sand of a sea who are waiting for the 1,000 years to be over. It's used like in the same context. Myriads of people were waiting for the 1,000 years of Christ. But Shelley and all of the girls, they like to put it out there, but it's 1,000. If anybody has another argument, maybe we'll come back to it. Everything changed in World War I. This is what Armageddon looked like. They had Rome, they had cannons, they had travel, they had kingdoms of the world where if they wanted to have a party for 6 months, like the king of Persia did when he was going to marry Esther or something. Look at these buildings. We got to look at World War I as it's when the kingdoms were divided and they were making up kingdoms. and then they declared peace, and we've been covering up their buildings ever since. Look at this town, St. Nicholas. You think they were worshiping the Nicolaitans? This is where the World War I trenches were, where men were brainwashed into just go get them. Defensive walls from the where what was this from the French Revolution or from the 1920s? And I mean in 1917. Questions, questions, questions. Here's what they say happened, I guess. There's the museum and men made sandbags, and that was it. We sandbagged up and had a little war, made some trenches, then declared peace. That kind of looks like a fascista with some sort of weird declamation stone. So those are sandbags. It's like that's the best you got. I don't know. But anyway, here's this young man.
Cop was busted.
Well, I wanted
for
to show you the other one first here.
Police body-worn cameras.
Is that the one? Oh, so this guy gives it the whole story here. Jump ahead.
lying about a teen pointing a gun at her. It's a damn shame. Put it up full mass. I'm taking you to Indianapolis.
Why would anybody do that? Why would anybody do that? And yet, there was a time when I got to Adams State University when the administration knew that I needed an address because I was going to report to Castle Rock and get my driver's license back because I was into the sovereign law thing, and I told them they didn't have jurisdiction figured out. When they do, I'll come in. I missed court. I got a warrant put on me for a fender bender. I straightened it out with the DA, was coming back. That's all on record. And yet, 3, 4 women, a counselor who I said, no, I just want to get this thing figured out so we can get the warrant figured out. The next day, the chief of police orders 2 female cops to come pick me up after class in front of the world and arrest me while I was living in a motel that I shouldn't have had to have been paying for by myself. And they knew in their mind, girls think when somebody goes to jail, they'll get raped. And they knew I didn't have to go, but if they arrested me and turned me over to the Alamosa police from the Adams State Police, of which they're a part of the Alamosa County Sheriff's Department, they would be stuck. So I ended up handcuffed 3 hours going to Castle Rock, a suburb of Denver, for a fender bender charge. And the DA was mad because the whole deal was he wanted me to show up in person and apologize to him. And I had to explain to him, I was ready to show up and apologize. I only needed an address. But 4 women, the chief of police, the 2 cops that arrested me, and the woman who was a counselor who was sworn to secrecy and had told me, oh, no, anything you say, unless it's been like murder or something, I've got to keep it secret. Well, I thought she already knew because it was in the emails and everything else. I need a place to live. The world is against us, but God means it for good. And we'd better get used to it because I'm going to get into the dates. Why is it 1,000 years? That's what we're here for. We're here for, but part of the thing is, why would a woman do this? And probably go to church, maybe married, maybe divorced 2 or 3 times, but puts on her mason or trigger gun.
Accused an 18-year-old named Dalen Brewer of pointing a gun at the officer. That's a high crime, ladies and gentlemen. That is a high crime. But prosecutors dropped the charges against the 18-year-old after they say police body camera footage did not support the allegations. Now, Brewer is suing the city and the sergeant, Robin Frazier, the officer who fabricated the story.
Lion Robin. Lion Robin, ready to let this guy go to prison for life over a made-up story. He has a legal gun in the car, and they had to drop the charges because her body camera.
Officer fabricating a story means they committed a crime. It means that they falsified documents. They had to falsify the report. That also means they violated their oath of office. This is a felony status violation.
No, nothing has happened to this girl in the years since this happened, except the man is free and now he's going to sue and get him for a bunch of money.
They attempted to charge an 18-year-old kid with a felony that could ruin and wreck their lives forever.
Put him in jail.
And the prosecutor says, well, we got to drop the charges because the story doesn't add up. Well, there's more than just the story doesn't add up. So according to court documents, the incident occurred on April.
All right, look. This guy, I want you to see this, but he's got to do his thing. And to me, it seems like that's drag it out and give the full explanation. But he doesn't show the, the crime. How should I do Arizona? AZ. The suing. Oh, that's not the guy. No, they don't want to, they always want to make it ridiculous. Really? Really? And this is happening now. Okay. Well, we're going with this.
April 12th, 2026. As Brewer, the 18-year-old, was driving into Riverside Park on the northwest side of Indianapolis. Brewer was carrying lawfully possessed firearms inside his vehicle. Lawfully possessed.
He has the video and he shows it.
Drove past two Metropolitan Police vehicles parked at the entrance. Sergeant Frazier, now remember, Sergeant means
maybe
supervisor.
he doesn't show it.
Supervisor Frazier followed the teenager's vehicle to a parking space inside the park, approached the teenager's car, and opened the driver's side door. Okay, you can argue on the protocol of this interaction already without any charges ever being filed. It's already strange that you would be seemingly profiled if you've done nothing illegal. Your car being searched without proper premise, door being open. But there's more. The lawsuit states that when the supervisor, Sergeant Frazier, opened the door, her body-worn camera captured Brewer with his hands raised in the air. Although firearms were present on the vehicle floor and between his legs, Brewer kept his hands raised continuously. When Sergeant Frazier attempted to pull Brewer from the vehicle While it was still in gear, the car rolled slightly. Brewer attempted to put the vehicle into park, prompting Sergeant Frazier to draw her firearm and point it at Brewer and his front seat passenger, who all
They have this on camera. Maybe this is it.
A black 18-year-old is suing the city of Indianapolis and...
Are you going to show it? Thank you.
Dismissed, but not until Mr. Brewer served about 4 days in the Marion County
Wow.
Jail here in Indianapolis.
So this is it from the very beginning. She follows him to the parking lot, walks up to his car and opens the door. Him and his partner both have their hands up. This is it from the very beginning. This is why the charges were dropped. She's not in jail. She illegally searched his car, just walks up, opens the door because he's a black kid. She did it. This girl, this child, she has a gun, a taser, and no repercussions. She can lie. She's been promoted. She's the girl. This kid here, you can go to fucking jail. And I'm going to go back to that other guy and let him read what she said. He pulls a gun and pointed it at me and clicked and made a face like surprised it didn't fire. She didn't just, he had a gun. I thought he pointed it at me. That's not it. That's not this story today.
Losing his freedom, particularly almost losing his job. But nonetheless, this young man, his reputation.
She got a gun out.
Here's someone with
right
no
off the
criminal
bat
history to speak of. Now he's labeled a criminal, labeled a felon. Not only just labeled a felon, the police have a particular website they use here where they like to use PR to show the number of felony arrests and how they're dealing with crime in the community. They placed this particular arrest in that platform, showed it to the entire world basically, and even after he was exonerated, they still
they don't want to admit any guilt. She got promoted. It's like, look, we let him go. She drew her firearm, pointed it at him, kept his hands raised. He's describing the lawsuit video.
Also had his hands up, according to the video. Brewer immediately stopped touching the vehicle controls and was arrested. You have an individual who is complying 100%. So following the arrest, the sergeant recommended multiple severe criminal charges, including level 1 felony attempted murder,
resisting law enforcement, intimidation, and pointing a loaded firearm. That Robin, she's a woman cop who's worked her way up. It's a DEI appointment, and like Israel, with a woman with nobody as ahead of her in her mind, she swore to God in a probable cause affidavit to go to court, submitted under penalty of perjury. Robin Frazier claimed Brewer pointed a revolver directly at her, while Sergeant Frazier began visually scanning the vehicle. The driver, identified as Dylan Brewer, appeared to be pointing a rifle towards Sergeant Frazier at the door panel. Sergeant Frazier saw the barrel end of the revolver point in her direction. Brewer raised the revolver, then the gun dropped and raised both hands. Well.
resisting law enforcement, intimidation. Frazier began both hang somebody's life.
So,
due to the extreme,
did you see anything like that? They looked over the camera. They told the cop, "You made it up, but oh well. We got to let him go." But you would expect some repercussions on the girl.
Prosecutors have prosecuted. Despite the dismissal, The lawsuit alleges the city of Indianapolis and IMPD, the police department, continued to publish false press releases and media statements portraying Brewer as an attempted cop killer. That's according to court filing.
Okay, well, we found it.
Cameras meant to be worn on a police officer's body. Seems pretty obvious, right? Well, it wasn't in Tempe. I'm ABC 15
Back to Arizona.
Chief Investigator Dave Biskobing.
We exposed how cops took them off, used them as makeshift surveillance cameras in a hospital, recording a mostly naked woman.
But now, because of our reporting, that's over. Tempe just changed their policy to make it very clear that body-worn cameras should only be worn on a police officer's body.
Before we tell you more about what's changing, here's the very beginning of the ABC 15 investigation that led to the change. It was in December 2022, inside the Tempe St. Luke's emergency room, where this woman, handcuffed to a hospital bed, was going through a drug overdose. We're now blurring the rest of the video.
Yeah, because they wanted to see her naked. So back to the Bible thing and how I think I have it figured out. Because, and it's not going to be blame the Jews, the crypto Jews. Those guys, they did it. Zach Mack, you are not going to believe it. I dug out the rock that you had painted that I had put in the bucket in front of you. The paint was still on it. Underneath that one rock that I said, this is going to dissolve and have metal in it. It's totally dissolved, but the paint was still on that rock. I'm going to take some pictures and use it in a show. It was crazy. Anyway, we're going to get into the Bible because of this. I've got that whole 1,000 years. Rome was really advancing. They were, there was a time where Paul was born a Roman citizen and he didn't bring it up to stop getting beat. And then there was a time where Rome kept advancing, where there were centurions. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh my goodness, we just put somebody in handcuffs that is a Roman citizen. And they apologized to him and he said, let them come out and release me from jail themselves. And they did. So things change. During that time, Rome was into gold. They needed it. After, when the wheat and the tares were that field that was left after they survived because they were in the mountains, they melted like wax and they came out. And the crypto Jews, the liars, the ones that what's all these weeds doing in here? Well, that's the work of Satan. You're going to have to deal with it. And I'm going to rule this whole 1,000 years with a rod of iron from heaven. It never says he rules on earth. You got to knock that off. But here's how the Romans did their mining. They stripped the mountains to get 2 or 3 grams for a ton. And they didn't care. Why should
The
they?
aqueducts that served Las Medullas eventually included about 600 kilometers of water channels, which supplied between 50 and 90
Just
million
about 400
cubic meters
miles,
of water
almost
annually.
400 miles.
Much of this was held in reservoirs above the mines. When the hushing galleries were ready, the reservoir's stone sluice gates were opened. The force of the water thundering through the tunnels and saturation of the surrounding sediment created landslides that stripped away
500 kilometers would be 320 miles.
However, we're in Spain. Pliny the Elder describes a mine that cut 1.5 miles into the mountains and was so deep
Rome.
that it had to be continuously pumped by
Rome
slaves
did
working
it.
water wheels. The open cast mines of northwestern Spain were on an even grander scale. Here, as throughout the empire, gold mines were owned by the state and overseen by an imperial procurator. Individual
Let's
mines
see
were
what the
managed
mountains look
by
like today.
It vanished 2,000
They
years
cut
ago
the mountains.
when miners, channeling the water of
This
its
used to be the whole
aqueducts,
mountain.
washed it away to expose the gold that financed the power
They
of
washed it away, like with the hydraulics, like they did in the Americas after the 1,000-year reign. Remember, this is happening in Spain, home of the crypto Jews.
the most spectacular of Roman Spain's gold mines. The site began to be exploited early in the 1st century AD.
Okay,
Not long
well,
after
we know
Augustus
what the 1st century AD is, right?
added
70
the surrounding
AD
regions
much?
to the empire. Over the next 150 years, a workforce that may have sometimes swelled to 20,000 men
Is that a lot?
transformed what had been a nondescript valley into a
It
movement.
had to be tons more. When King Hiram and Solomon made a deal to start building the temples, one of the building projects took 80,000 people to cut trees. So don't tell me they did that with 20,000 people. The Bible gives real numbers.
The gold of Las Medullas was embedded in layers of sand and clay that had eroded from the Sumiedo Mountains. Only some strata
Sumiedo.
contained gold, and these were buried beneath up to 100 meters of sterile sediment.
Wow. Wow. Anyway, I just want to get to the point here.
Sediment covering the gold-bearing strata. The work, Pliny tells us, could take months. When the miners encountered masses of rock too hard for their picks, they cracked the stones with fires or 150-pound weights. Once the tunnels were finished, they were
That's
flooded.
part of the aqueduct.
To obtain the vast amount of water required, the miners built aqueducts through the mountains. Pliny describes the immense labor of driving conduits through ridges.
I think they did. I think they did do it. And then they used it to water pressure to wash away the mountains.
Of the
Would
surrounding
that
sediment
work?
created landslides that stripped away millions of tons of overburden.
Oh, it worked. It did work. And they'd go all down to make a soup, and then they'd pan it for $3 grand
The miners
a ton?
at Las Medullas used the ruinamantium technique again and again.
Well, what I'm contending, my contention is that the Spanish crypto Jews that came out knew about the mining operations, and in due time started whispering in people's ears about El Dorado, Colorado, Egypt, Goshen, where I live. And they realized they could come not only here, but the gold ran all the way up through Mexico. And so they set the people to a working under crypto Jew disguise of Roman Catholicism. Queen Jezebella, Ferdinand, Christopher Columbus, named after the goddess. It's all making sense now. So after the 1,000 years, they jumped in, repopulated until they got at the end of the 1,000 years, we have the remnants of people who were claiming to be Christians who would cut your skin off and burn you alive if you didn't believe in a Trinity. So that's part of the problem that we have to get into. Part of the burden of proof on me is to, more than say, there's a word for 1,000. There's a word for a myriad. It's an old argument I used for 40 years I was the flunky for one of the heads of the preterist movement, Dr. Paul D. Lindstrom, where the biggest conferences were, the largest Christian homeschool in the world, one of the largest campus for a Christian school, where he let Do Re Me smoke a little weed because I could win I was the athletic director, and we could win at basketball and win at volleyball. That didn't happen before I got there. And so they pretty much let me do anything I want because I was all in for preterism. And so they figured, well, let us smoke the weed. But government sucks anyway. Good times. But it was the Jesuits that were set up by the John Birch Society. Check it out. But that's another video. I'm into the 1,000 years thing right now. This guy, wrong.
Different to the rounding up and rounding down passages of thousands that do not go down to the tens column or even the hundreds column.
Yeah, there are a few verses like that. We taught you how to read those books. And now, what do you got? A picture of Virgin Mary in the what's next? Your own Bible? Oh, no, stop it. 1,000 is 1,000. And it's this 1,000 years that is so important. You know, because let's look at it in the ESV. This all came through series of visions and everything else, that if this is the marriage supper of the Lamb, and we really do worship a God who has a name that no one knows but he himself, he has titles, he has a reputation, we know, we call him the Word of God, Emmanuel. He's coming back, and all of a sudden, doesn't it seem so real? Well, it didn't seem real to anybody but Do Re Mi and God when I started a channel called Flat Earth Nation Golden Age Past, and said, wow, when the beast gets captured and the false prophet, they get chunked alive into the lake of fire. Remembering a good friend, Doug, was telling me how these things were written by a guy named Alexander. By these things, I mean the verse numbers in the chapters. This would have kept going because you would be wondering, well, where's Satan? He got the beast and the false prophet, chunked him into the lake of fire forever. But there was another. See, John wasn't interrupted. He said, saw those guys lake of fire. Everybody's going to have plenty of food for the wolves. And now, here's an angel going to lock up Satan with a great chain in the bottomless pit for 1,000 years. And you don't see this in scripture anywhere else. To make sure you know, it is Satan. It's not 1, it's not 2, 3, it's 4. Seized the dragon, that ancient serpent who is Diablo, the adversary. He's bound for 1,000 years. And this is that word that matters. Because in Matthew 24, you've all seen that verse about Daniel, and so much more about, some of you will still be alive here and I'm coming back for you. But it talks about the abomination of desolation spoken by the prophet Daniel, standing in the holy place. And then at that time, that's the trigger. Flee to the mountains. That only happens one time in history, and that's right before, woohoo, Micah chapter 1, verse 4, and the mountains will melt like wax. Yikes. Well, we know what that happened. And, so it happens in Daniel chapter 12. He's a prophet. He's the major of the minor prophets. They're dealing with demigod type Elohim spirits, that this whole flesh world of dirt was created so a man of the dust would be worshiped as God in the flesh. Well, these guys are still fighting it, man. First year of Darius the Mede, everyone's going up there. Branch from the roots. We know who it's going to be. And then, they're going to get the message. The extractor of tribute. He shall do what neither his father nor his father's fathers have done, scattering among them spoil and goods? King of the south is going to rise up, times appointed, forces are going to appear and profane the temple and the fortress. They're going to take away the regular burnt offering. That has to be a part of it. And then you set up the abomination of desolate. That means that you're a non-Hebrew in the Holy of Holies claiming to be God. And you seduce the people with the flatteries of the covenants. Kings doing as they will. Pay attention to no other God except the God of fortresses. They're worshiping them. The whole world is judged. But there's a time when the people are going to be delivered. Michael and Archangel. I want to show you chapter 10. To get these terrifying visions from still now third year of Persia, a hand touched me. I've been sent to you, Daniel. Fear not. But you know what? Even though he's encouraged from the first day you set your heart to understand and humble yourself before God, God heard your prayers. And this angel has come because of your words. There was a spirit who was in charge of the area of kingdom of Persia. And that spirit withstood another spirit for 21 days. And if it had not been for Michael, one of the chief princes, who could say, okay, another angel needs some help, I'm going to go get it. He's got to get that message to Daniel. Does heaven sound boring to you? No, these things happen, but that's who we're dealing with. Powers and principalities in the 1,000 years, the abomination. It's reemphasized in 11, as I showed you. It'll be even more reemphasized here with some dates and some understanding that it's sealed up. They were shattered. And the holy peoples come to an end, all these things would be finished. He didn't understand what's the outcome. No, these words are shut up, like that other seventh seal, sealed. Because what's happening, there's a people that will need to understand when you get surrounded, it's going to be the abomination, flee. And there's another group of people that are shut up until the time of the end. Is the end, not a pretend end. See, it's not a, what are we looking at here? You were thinking it was eon. They go, it's just another eon. No. Was except for the 8 souls that were on the ark, was it the end of all flesh? Don't give me your Gilgamesh Enoch bull crap. I am not in the mood. No, it's over. There's a word for it's over, baby. And that's what I'm talking about. It's 2046. You've got to get your mind around. We've got a lot of work left. And if you want to be one of these people who are going to purify themselves, yeah, I'm talking about you could help purify yourself. And you can help make themselves white. And what is the white linen? The righteousness of the saints who have been known from before the foundation of the earth. And after they're born again, saved by grace, to emulate their big brother, they will do the works that have been laid out for them from before the foundation of the time. But none of the wicked shall understand. They're not going to understand. But those who are wise, who are trying to purify themselves and make themselves wives, will understand. And from that time that the regular burnt offering is taken away and this abomination of desolation is set up, and the whole tear down the stones, prophet, priest, and king we call Jesus. Well, when was he a prophet? Well, he said during the abomination of desolation, what was making it desolate, that not one of these magnificent stones, they were going like, in Matthew 23 and 24, going like, look at our town, it's awesome. No, he's saying a specific, and this is years, because it doesn't say in the days and nights. This is that prophetic year thing. Everybody uses it. But it's only 1,000. Because they added 1,000 years. You can take that away. That's not even to be considered. They added 1,000 years to history. If you're not on board to that, pray about it. And so that leaves this 1,000 years. That's the 1,000 years Satan is in the pit. And then there's going to be a total of 335 days. And the people that, remember, there's no verses or commas or periods in their world. There's going to be 2,090 days. And then if you're blessed and you can wait and you can arrive for what now is the last 20 years, you'll be blessed, and you're not going to die. You're going to get rescued by fire. Way to go. It's in the mix. You have a chance. Don't fall away. Die in faith. But Daniel, you go your way to the end. Uh-oh, is he joining us at that place? Yes, he is. He's not going his way to the end of the first resurrection. He's not going that way. He's going to be judged with everybody else at the certain time, at the end. This word's used twice. After the certain amount of years. 2 Chronicles 18:2. To my shame, I am not aware of what that is, what context that is in right now. Jehoshaphat, there's a good guy. But Ahab asked Jehoshaphat, will you go with me? And Jehoshaphat unwisely said yes. Okay. Some years later. Okay. Your allotted portion at the end of the age. That's this age. That's the end. The end of all perfection. So at that time, Daniel is with us. Blessed are those who make it. Now, if you take 9/11 and go back 290 years in the Gregorian calendar, that's 1711. That's not somebody like this guy saying, well, it could be the 1500s, it could be the 1200s, doesn't have to be 1,000 years, it could be 40 years. It's 1,000 years. And at the end of the 1,000 years, there's going to be 335 days until the very end. 1711 in the Gregorian calendar equals 1666 in my world in the Julian calendar. They say they only add 11 hours or 11 days to the Julian calendars. They lie. But Daniel's going to die, and he's going to rest. He's going to sleep. But he will stand in his place at the allotted time. Now, after the 1,000 years, we see the blessed first resurrection, where the people who had given their life for Christ or had not taken the mark of the beast were, for lack of a better term, raptured. They were caught up and met Christ and ruled and reigned with him in heaven. They were crying out in Revelation chapter 6 from underneath the altar, how long until we're avenged? Well, until all of the people who are set to be martyrs and part of the first resurrection are there. And the second death isn't going to be a thing for them. But we have this 1,000 years ending, and like everybody else, Daniel and everybody else will be judged then. Satan's going to be released. We're going to get judged. Numbers like a sea. They're going to march over the flat earth, surround the camp of the saints and the beloved city, the polis. And this saints, there is no special word for this saints. It just means the camp of the set apart people. There is no mythical saint that will live and rule and reign for 1,000 years on earth with Christ. Well, not according to this word. This word just means they're like everybody else. All the saints that have fallen asleep. You know? And the word holy here doesn't mean holy angels. That's angelos. It means set apart. There's some set apart angels and there aren't. There are set apart prophets and there are false prophets. That's what this word means. And in Revelation, it's the same thing. Hey, they're writing letters to all the saints, not some special glorified saints in Revelation. That is asinine, stupid, heretical, and a part of the Atlantis movement to make you believe in Enoch. No, these people are all going to do that. And then after that, the devil who had deceived them will join the beast and the false prophet in the lake of fire, where they will be eternally punished day and night forever and ever. But that's not for you or me. We have to go through the great white throne. And that's the next verse. And then all the people, great and small, who have been asleep, waiting for this day. It's going to happen. And there's more than one book. Then I saw the great white throne and him who was seated on it. From his presence, earth and sky fled away, and no place was found on earth for them, the earth and the sky. And I saw the dead, great and small, standing before the throne, and books were opened. Then another book was opened, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged by what was written in the books, according to what they had done. It sounds like if you haven't done anything except confess Christ and eat your way to diabetes, then you have not done enough. There was a person who was given a talent. He hid it in a Kleenex and buried it. No, he didn't make it. Death and hell, they're judged according to what they had done. The sea gave up its dead. A lot of people have died in the sea. Death and hell gave up their dead, and they were judged, each one of them, according to what they ever done. And then when they got done judging all the people in death and hell were thrown into the lake of fire. That's the second death, the lake of fire. If your name's not in there, then you haven't died in faith. That's why it's important to not, let little things like this pass away, or to think you understand the Cook's radiometer, and maybe it's possible light does have a presence. Maybe when they say that faith is the evidence of things hoped for, it could be something that's real. And you can't just say 1,000 years are signified, because they use that, the book of Revelation signifies that when it says 1,000 years, that our heaven will be a long time. Satan was thrown in for 1,000 years. Come on. He's just a party bandwagon jumper, party casher. Used 6 times. It's really not meaning what he wants. Now, Joshua 4. Why did Joshua wait so long to circumcise them? Here you go. And this is the reason why Joshua circumcised them. All the males of the people who came out of Egypt, all the men of war, had died in the wilderness on the way after they had come out of Egypt. What do you mean? This is why. What'd you circumcise them with? Oh, flint rocks? Huh. Verse 2. At that time, because the people were afraid of them. There's the spies were telling them, though their hearts are melting, there's no spirit left in them because they know that God is paying back payment to Israel, his people who had worked as slaves for 400 years. Make flint knives and circumcise Bene Israel a second time. Isn't that weird that that phrase is used? Because they're talking about humans. And these Israel, sons of Israel, there's a lot of times people want you to think that, you know, that means that sons of God's mated with women. Really? They're that nuts. Make flint knives and circumcise the Bene Israel a second time. So Joshua made flint knives and circumcised the sons of Israel at Gilbreth Harloth. And this is the reason he did it, because they never got circumcised while we were in the wilderness, and all the other men died because, well, they chose to wander for 40 years because of the 40 days. Remember, we're tying in that 1,000 year thing there. Now, the people of Israel walked for 40 years in the wilderness until all the nation, the men of war who came out of Egypt, perished because they did not obey. Lord swore to them that he would not let them see the land of the Lord had sworn to their fathers. But you wonder, why did they stop doing it? So it was their children whom he raised up in their place that Joshua was getting the flint knives for they were uncircumcised. Some of them could have been 40 years old, pushing 40. RJ wants me to look into borax and boron, and it sounds like a good idea. So I like this light spectrum stuff. If everybody else is studying boron and their clusters and their ball and stick models, it kind of looks like a bacteriophage, doesn't it? Like the lunar module. Oh my goodness, what? Remember here, I can look right through it. Wait, what? Stop it. You stop it. This is a flat earth nation. The golden age is past. Hola, Rocky. We have orphan trained brains. Men have a job. We have to provide a place for old women and children to live, and Lord willing, provide them with water that doesn't have fluoride or pesticides in it. Because God is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. And if you seek him, you'll find it is way past time to have beaten your sword into a plowshare, because you're not going to win a fight against the robot dogs. The idea is to be a man and realize there's a time to run away and hide and not fight the robot dogs. Because if you die or send your men to die, well, today we'll only lose 30% of our men. That's 30% too many. Because who's going to feed the old women and give clean water to the children when you're dead? Nobody else is going to step up. You've seen the rat studies from Calhoun and stuff. Nobody's going to step up. When your alpha males are gone, your beta males go anal. Right off the bat. We got one chance to do this right. And the 1,000 years is being played off by Satan and the Jesuits and the Rosicrucians. It means 1,000 years. Get that through your orphan trained brain. We've been lied to. Your parents are in on it, or they've been fooled too. Your grandparents are in on it, or they've been fooled too. Because they're the nicest people you ever know, and they're Roman Catholic, so I'm never going to believe that that's not true. Well, then you're going to hell too. You can be called. You have to be chosen and faithful. Amen. Hallelujah. Aho. Aloha, arrivederci, ciao, sayonara, auf Wiedersehen, nakamain, Adios, amigos. From the border of southern Colorado and New Mexico, that is how I like to say goodbye.